Jenna, just to clarify, are you waiting?
Oh, I just unmuted the bridge, and now you're live.
Great.
Good morning, I'm Vice Mayor Shanika Smith and Chair of the Public Safety Committee. I'd like to welcome you all to the November 17th meeting. All council members and staff are participating virtually. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website. We also have the option for the public to listen live by phone by dialing 855-925-2801 and entering the code 9477. For today's meeting, we have the option for people to call in and comment live during the meeting. To call in and comment live, use the same number, 855-925-2801, meeting code 9477. Your phone will be muted and you will hear the meeting live. At this point, callers will hear for more options. Press star 3. Pressing star 3 will allow callers to continue to listen live and join the speaker queue. Public comment will be heard at the beginning and the end of public safety meeting. Callers may comment only once during the general public comment session, either during the beginning or the end of public comment period, not both. Callers will have 3 minutes to speak. Speakers shall refrain from personal attacks and or threats directed towards city council, city staff, or members of the public. And let me go on down. We'll take 3 minutes for public comment, and Jenna will let you know when your time is up. If you're watching the meeting through the live stream while you're listening to the meeting by phone, be sure to turn down your volume on your device before speaking. Now I'll go through and introduce those who are participating with us virtually. Just give a quick hello. Councilwoman Kilgore.
Hello.
Councilwoman Roney.
Good morning.
City Manager Deborah Campbell.
Hello.
City Attorney Brad Branham.
Hello, everyone.
Police Chief David Zack.
Good morning.
Fire Chief Scott Burnett.
Good morning.
APD Financial Business Manager Elise Lewis.
Sorry. Good morning.
Good morning. And from Buncombe County, we have special guests today, Claire Hubbard and Taylor Jones. And we'll start our agenda. Is there anybody in speaker queue for public comment?
We do have someone in the speaker queue. Give me 1 second. Caller ending in 2425. Your line is open.
Good morning, everybody. This is Tom Tesser with the Asheville Coalition of Public Safety. It was a pleasure meeting everybody the other day at the council meeting. I have a couple of points I want to be really brief and complete. Number one, I would like to voice a complete support for the BVP grant for the bulletproof vests that are coming up. We had I think 2 council members last time who voted no. To me, if you vote no, it's an indication that you're not supporting public safety and you are antithetical to public safety, which is then you are not fulfilling your duty as one of the main points being supporting the average citizen's safety, Ashevillean citizen safety. Also, the JAG grant, I think, should be completely supported as well. And I'd like to get into a conversation about, I think that you folks now are aware of our group and we are laser focused on building our police force back up. So now we're going to start to give you some ideas to what is workable. We have done some extensive research as to what salaries are around. We've looked at what Greenville offers, what the North Carolina State Highway Patrol is offering, and what we offer, and Greenville. And we are very much below what they're offering. If I were an individual, either an existing police officer or a trainee, I certainly would not come to Asheville because I would make much more money and have much better benefits going to one of these other departments. We have to become competitive, if not more competitive. We must raise the salaries, starting and retention. We must offer healthcare, in retirement to retain our officers. We are going to lose officers to these higher paying locales if we don't take action, folks. And being down close to 100 officers, we can't afford that anymore. It is really absolutely crucial that we get on track to increase salaries and benefits specifically for police officers, because that's where the city's deficit is. And that's where, in essence, the foundation for citizen safety lies. Besides fire and EMT, et cetera, this is critical. As I mentioned, I gave everybody an example in California of a county that stopped daytime patrols. We are going to eventually get there if we do not take action. So I'm asking every council member, and we have elicited also radio and TV to follow up on everything that is going to be viewed, laser focused on this. So there's going to be accountability, and we want to see action, and we want to see
Caller,
success.
you're at 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Caller ending in 4192. Your line is open.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The first reason I'm calling today is to ask for Kim Roney's removal. Kim has shown for years that she's not supportive of policing. She does not see a need for a full police staff. And in fact, she wants to revolutionize the police force by eliminating 50% of police and supplementing in community paramedics and social workers. She recently said that she wants to send community paramedics and social workers, and I quote, with the right tools and training to calls for service around the opioid overdose crisis, homelessness response, intimate partner violence, and mental health. You can't be seriously expecting a social worker or community paramedic to show up unarmed with no police support to domestic violence and drug-related mental crisis. How does that make sense? We all see it as a unified approach that includes police. During the debate she participated in for her run for mayor, she never even mentioned police when asked about violent crime. These community paramedics won't respond to, investigate, or solve violent crime. It's not even reasonable to consider such ridiculous suggestions. Here's another quote from her in 2020, and while she softened her approach to gain the mayoral seat, this did not age well. Policing in the United States and in Nashville is budgeted and permitted through complicit behavior to perpetuate white supremacy, classism, and racism under the guise of public safety. There are constant and egregious violations of the Constitution because the system does not ensure equal protection under the law, and that happens through criminalization of poverty, racial bias and traffic stops, family separation, evictions, and foreclosures, and in our schools. The city of Asheville must reduce harm immediately by committing to divest 50% of the Asheville Police Department budget, extending the current citywide hiring freeze to include the APD, looking at bringing 911 dispatch under community control, and expanding written consent and search policy for all modes of traffic. How could you seriously have this person on the Committee for Public Safety? This is the tip of the iceberg of radical anti-police thinking she has, and it's appalling that here she sits. Please remove her immediately. On a separate note, we recently saw that the State Highway Patrol has an excellent new school offering a higher rate of pay than APD. We know we're losing APD officers who are seasoned and trained to this program. Why wouldn't we? City Hall has moved too slowly, and we know that the State Highway Patrol is hiring laterally at a higher salary rate, starting $46,058 for basic training and up to $76,253 within 6 years. We know we are losing patrol officers to this, and yet nothing is being done. Why? If the goal we need to achieve here is to hire new APD, shouldn't we be making their salaries more competitive in an effort to retain the officers we have left? We want to see a plan of action as soon as possible on how council and the city manager will move forward on this. It's unconscionable to sit back and act like what we have to offer is enough. If I were working in APD with the sheer amount of absolute disrespect from this city, the police haters and the crappy pay, I would leave too. How could you blame them? Step up for these officers and for those of us asking you to retain and recruit more officers now. Pass the JAG grant and the bulletproof vest through unanimously and send it to council. Stop resisting supporting
Caller,
them and stand up and follow through. We're here to...
Caller ending in 5584. Your line is open.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. First off, I just want to say thank you to our public servants who attend so many meetings and hear so many voices. You guys are great. Thanks for the number of hours you put in for our city. As you know, I'm a member of the Asheville Coalition for Public Safety. Yes, we are paying close attention to how our first responders are being supported now. Asheville really is in a tipping point. We're at a pivotal point, and we're requesting that any request the police put forth, you all support. The JAG grant for sure. Anytime the police requests a vest, it just has to be a yes, because what you're doing is you're validating that their actual life is important. They show up in situations where they could be outgunned and outpowered by citizens. We only see the news every day. We see continual shootings in our schools, our colleges. We see situations that can turn violent very, very quickly. And those are not situations to call a social worker for. You just can't. The other thing is liberal cities right now are becoming places where police don't want to work anymore. So that's a real deep concern. And again, I'm a lifelong Democrat. Part of the values of the Democratic Party were always supporting middle-class incomes. Teachers, nurses, and police absolutely need a solid middle-class income to be able to afford to live in Asheville. All three of those careers are not getting raises fast enough. So if we want to attract officers, Black, brown, or white, doesn't matter. They've got to be able to afford to live here. So we need to make it tantalizing for them to want to come and work here and afford to buy a decent home, raise their kids here, etc. So right now, we looked at the salaries and they are not keeping up with inflation. They're not keeping up with middle-class America. So yeah, please, please support anything they need. I'm afraid we're going to lose more and things could get worse before they get better. Thank you.
Caller ending in 0255, your line is open.
Yes. Hi, my name is Tom Kirkesser. I'm in Montfort, and I first wanted to thank council and our police and fire chiefs for their service to the community. I personally believe that safety is the #1 priority for government, period, full stop. And I think it's very clear that we're in crisis, that we have a serious situation that needs serious attention, clear leadership, and vocal support from council. If council members have different points of view, they should be clear and transparent. That's fine. No word salads, no oblique references. Where do you stand? And then citizens can make a judgment about how we're being led. I also think there need to be clear metrics. Let's be aggressive. Let's be clear about what we're going to accomplish, when we're going to accomplish it, and who's accountable if we don't. We need to make progress. We need to make progress rapidly. I think we want a model police force. We want to be the envy of the world, certainly the US. And in order to do that, we need to pay in a way that's commensurate with that. I think that there's opportunities to do that. And I frankly think perhaps council should consider putting out a referendum to let the citizens weigh in on this, because I think it's important. So no hidden agendas, no word salads, be clear, be concise, say what you mean, and people will hold you accountable. Thank you very much for your service.
Caller ending in 2266, your line is open.
Hi, this is Grant Millen, longtime Asheville resident, and I am not part of the movement to ask Kim Roney to step down from the Public Safety Committee meeting. She was duly elected. She volunteered to serve on the Public Safety Committee meeting. I just joined the Asheville Coalition Public Safety Committee Facebook group. I'm not necessarily aligned with anything they're saying because I just joined a couple of days ago to see what's going on. But one of their admins has got a post up about this movement to ask Kim Roney to resign. So that's what we're saying, that they're one of the groups that they're asking for this. Thing that you really, it's not a real thing to go over, because Kim is a member of Asheville City Council, and the council is backing her being on the Public Safety Committee meeting, and her ideas are not illegal or unethical or anything, but they may be different ideas, and transformation is not something I oppose. So what's something that's a big deal is the Public Safety Committee transformation into the Environment and Safety Committee Council Committee as of January. It happens after January. After this meeting, I think it's January, maybe the last Public Safety Committee meeting, straight up Public Safety Committee meeting. And I am not going over it all today because I've got probably 30 seconds left, but we get to go over how this transformation occurred, because I am a co-founder of the City of Asheville. It's not necessarily City of Asheville anymore. We're sort of on our own now. The Boards and Commissions Realignment Work Group. And I was exposed to these ideas of moving public safety over into something with 15 strategic layers. And I'm not going to go over all of that, but it includes recreation, stormwater, and climate. And I am all about climate, and I happen to have developed a bachelor's degree at UNCA that is about sustainability and security studies. And I can tell you, just walking into mixing these kinds of issues that the UN might deal with, this kind of transdisciplinary approach to public safety, it needed a plan, and I've talked about that now. And I'm
Caller,
really
you're at
interested
3
in that.
minutes. That was our last caller.
Thank you for all our callers who called in today. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. That is the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes from October?
This is Kim, so moved.
This is Sandra, I'll second.
All right, I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Kilgore,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. The motion carries. We'll move on to Elise for the renewal and applications for APD contracts and grants.
Thank you. Let this load. Okay, next slide, please. So today, Asheville PD is requesting to either renew or enter into new contracts with 2 vendors. Our first request is to renew our contract with LexisNexis for our Accurate Virtual Crime Center for a second and final renewal of this contract. This nationwide crime analysis platform has been extensively used internally by APD and its crime analysts since 2016, and is also available for use by the citizens of Asheville. We also have a request to enter into a contract with Colpro Media, who were selected for award after an RFP process internally. It's contracting with an advisor to fulfill the recommendation 8.4 of the policy and procedure review report issued in August of 2018 by 21 CP Solutions LLC, as engaged by the Asheville City Council to review the arrests, tactics, policies, and procedures involved in an excessive force incident. This contract allows for community transparency through counseling, advising, and guidance of the Asheville Police Department by a third-party established professional agency. Next slide, please. APD also has 2 existing grants we'd like to apply for an additional year of funding for. The Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant, JAG, allows for APD to use federal funding to purchase items not budgeted for by the city. The funds may be used to provide equipment, supplies, contractual support, training, technical assistance, and information systems for criminal justice. And we also have the Bulletproof Vest Grant, which allows for us to use federal funding to offset the cost of required bulletproof vests for our officers. The grant requires matching funds, and that funding is already included in our current operating budget. Next slide, please. So the LexisNexis Accurate Virtual Crime Center contract, we entered into this contract for a local and nationwide crime analysis platform for the first time in November of 2016. We continued our partnership with LexisNexis, executing this current contract January 1st of 2021. The Asheville Police Department and its citizens both have access to utilize this platform. Access is provided through the web-based community crime mapper that disseminates crime data in a geospatial map and on a link analysis chart. Crime Mapper allows customers to access real-time nationwide public records databases. The total annual cost when we started this contract was $36,050, and with a 3% annual increase, the contract was last renewed for $37,131.50, bringing the current contract total to $73,181.50. We're requesting approval to enter into the third and final year of this contract. The renewal amount, another 3% increase to $38,245.45, brings the contract total for all 3 years to $111,426.95, thus requiring council approval to proceed. We already include this expense in our annual budget process, so no additional funding is required. Next slide, please. So we're requesting the committee recommend to council the following: allow APD to renew the Asheville Police Department's contract with LexisNexis Accurate Virtual Crime Center for a second and final renewal. Next slide, please. The Police Transparency Engagement Advising Services contract in August.
I'm sorry, Elise. Vice Mayor, I'm thinking, do you want her to go through all of these? Or should we take the action?
Yeah, I wanted to actually go back and take action after each one.
Thank you.
And then we'll just knock this out, Elise.
Okay.
Grant by grant. Is there a motion to, well, I guess I'll make the motion. So we heard 2 so far, if I'm keeping up correctly.
Just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to allow APD to renew the Asheville Police Department's contract for LexisNexis Virtual Crime Center for a second and final renewal.
Sandra, I'll second.
All right, a motion and second is there. Kim, you have a question?
Yes, I do see that with this contract that it is available for use by the citizens of Asheville. So my question is, how does this relate to our dashboard? Does it inform our dashboard? Is it parallel, for example?
Doug?
They're 2 separate platforms. The police transparency dashboard is an ESRI product where we push out our data that's available on the open data portal, as well as some supplementary data sets. The community crime map is the LexisNexis platform that again pulls our incident data and call data and presents it onto a map.
So that tells me that they're not linked. How can a member of the public access this document or this set of data?
communitycrimemap.com. It allows you to put in an address, pull crime data within a certain distance of those locations. And do densities.
It's on our website too.
There's a link on the police transparency dashboard to the community crime map.
Thank you. Then before we take a vote, and I do appreciate that we are voting on these separately, I need to let folks know that it is the council's duty to oversee the budgets, plans, and policies of the organization as a whole. This committee is still lacking the requested update on fiscal year up-to-date budgets and projections. There's an expectation and anticipation that we will again have a budget surplus that can be used to meet the very serious public safety needs in our community. I repeat the understanding that overtime is expensive. So though we won't likely have the budget surplus the budget expects with so many vacancies, we do need to be able to inform and educate the public on what budget resources are available. Last year, Public Safety had a surplus of over $1 million. In our last Public Safety Committee this year, I heard clearly we're not going to get into the budget details at the committee level, but if not here, when and where? Until we have updates on our budget, My no vote on grant funding is directed at not approving increases to budget that lack transparency because these items would otherwise, and in fact, just with this one, are literally named as being funded in our existing budget, of which 47% of our general fund balance is allocated to public safety. Thank you for hearing my statement.
Any other statements or comments, questions for Elise before I do a roll call vote for approval? With none, I'll do a roll call vote. Sandra?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kilgore, sorry. Councilwoman Roney?
No.
And myself, aye. The motion carries 2-1. Okay, we go to the next one, Elise.
Okay. So this is the Police Transparency Engagement Advising Services Contract. Sorry, let me put a little small on my screen up there. In August of 2018, 21 CP Solutions LLC was engaged by the City of Asheville to review the arrest, tactics, policies, and procedures involved in an excessive force incident. Recommendation 8.4 of the Policy and Procedure Review Report issued by the company stated, the city should consider retaining a firm to provide crisis response services to the APD and the City of Asheville in the future. Relying on skilled crisis management experts can reduce the scope and impact of a critical incident by taking an active role in developing a cohesive, coordinated response across involved parties. These strategic responses can involve asserting control over media exposure, reducing liability, and preserving public safety in the immediate aftermath. The Asheville Police Department is requesting approval from council to enter into a contract with ColePro Media, LLC, the company identified for award as the result of an internal RFP process. ColePro Media will provide services to APD, which include counseling, advising, and guiding the police department in matters of transparency engagement issues, crisis communications, social media messaging, critical incidents, or any other counsel requested by the police department. The total annual cost for this contract is $54,000. 2 optional renewals will be included in the contract documents, bringing the intended 3-year contract total to $162,000. APD already includes this expense in our annual budget process, so no additional funding is required. Next, please. So the requested action here is to allow APD to enter into a new contract for transparency engagement advising services with ColePro Media, allowing for 2 optional renewals.
Before a motion, are there any questions? All right, I make a motion to allow APD to enter into a new contract for transparency engagement advising services with ColePro Media, allowing for 2 optional renewals. Is there a second?
Sandra, I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second on the floor. I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Kilgore.
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney.
With the same statement applying regarding budget transparency and lack thereof, no.
And myself, aye. Motion carries 2-0-2-1. We'll move on, Elise. Thank you.
Okay. The next is, we're moving on to grants now. The City of Asheville receives an annual opportunity to apply for a Department of Justice Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant. The DOJ has preliminarily determined that the Asheville Police Department is eligible to receive a 2022 award of $80,145, which is allocated to APD and Buncombe County Sheriff's Office in the amounts of $61,926 and $18,219 respectively. APD will use the funds to help pay for our DNA analyzer machine. Buncombe County Sheriff's Office, Crime Investigations Division, and Crisis Negotiation Team will use their grant funds to purchase access licenses for Magnet Axiom for $3,840 and to update vital technology programs and related equipment for their CID at the amount of $6,840 and CNT departments, $7,545 for CNT. And the grant does not require local matching funds. Next, please. So we're requesting the committee recommend to council the following: that APD can apply for and receive the 2022 JAG grant in the amount of $80,145, which is allocated to APD and Buncombe County Sheriff's Office in the amounts of $61,926 and $18,219 respectively.
All right. Can I just say so moved since she read it off? All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Sandra, I'll second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Kilgore,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Applying the same statement with lack of budget transparency, that leads my response to be no.
all right, myself, aye, and the motion carries.
Okay, next slide. And this is the final grant. We receive an annual opportunity to apply for the U.S. Department of Justice Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant. The DOJ has preliminarily determined that the Asheville Police Department is eligible to receive a 2022 award of $10,163.61, which requires a dollar-for-dollar match by the city. Bulletproof vests expire after 5 years, and during the life of this grant, 50 current officers' vests will expire and require replacement. Funding allows the purchase of 26 bulletproof vests over the 2-year life of the grant. Next. So we're requesting that the committee recommend to council to allow for APD to apply for and receive the 2022 Bulletproof Vest Grant in the amount of $10,163.61, which requires a dollar-for-dollar match by the city.
Okay, I'll make a motion to allow APD to apply for and receive the 2022 Bulletproof Vest Program Grant in the amount of $10,163.61, which requires a dollar-for-dollar match by the city. There's a second.
Sandra, I'll second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote for approval. Councilwoman Kilgore,
Aye.
Councilwoman Roney,
Acknowledging the bulletproof vests are a necessary tool for our staff, that this amount is certainly available in our general fund budget as well as the public safety budget. My statement still stands regarding budget transparency, which leads me to answer no.
and myself, aye. Motion carries.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Elise. I appreciate that. That concludes agenda item 3. We'll move on to, hold for a moment, two presentations on the community response program. The first is an overview of Buncombe County's community paramedics program from Claire Hubbard. And then after that, Chief Burnett will provide an update on the city of Asheville's efforts to develop a community responder pilot program. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you, and thank you for having us for this presentation. I'm going to ask Ms. Miller to click slides for me, and I want to just briefly pause on this page just to clarify, I think for the general public, that our program is largely a community paramedic program, and underneath that umbrella, we have smaller teams. One of them is a post-overdose response team. One of them is a medication team for substance use. And our newer team is an outreach team. So I'll go through all those in detail, but I just wanted to give pause for a moment and say that these are all under the umbrella of community paramedicine. And what you'll see there at the bottom, I want to pause for a moment too and say that striving to go beyond charity models and help people find their agency is an important part of the program because in an effort to get away from just providing aid to people versus relief, we're trying to look for sustainable models of working with people instead of just offering charity. And that's a big part of what our program's based on. And you can go to the next slide. So like I said, we have several teams under our program. One of them is a post-overdose response team that's been running for a little over 2 years now. This team is dispatched through the 911 call center. We do a co-responder model along with police and fire. This is a way for our community paramedics to both free up other first responders in the event that they're not necessary, and also to support them in giving our patients more access to wraparound services. We often work with police and fire and EMS on the ground with this team to figure out if the emergency department is in fact the best place for these patients or if we can offer more services. Again, moving away from charity and more towards offering people help when they're willing to accept it. And you can go to the next slide. Our mobile medication assisted treatment team is a team that supports our post-overdose response team. This is a team of paramedics that are able to actually give medication at the time of an overdose and continue to give medication to a patient who is willing to receive treatment for recovery. We also take these patients and deliver them over to MAHEC, who we partner with, where they can receive a full year of care. This includes psychiatric care, care for recovery, and payment for the medications. So again, our patients stay compliant with our MAT and PORT team, and through that, they're able to receive a year of free care at MAHEC. If you can go to the next slide, please. Most recently, we were funded for a 2-year pilot to add an outreach component to our program. Over the course of the 2 years that we've worked with populations around opioid use and overdose deaths, we've identified that the easiest way to say this is not all opioid users are just opioid users. There's also, there can be overlapping issues around mental health or housing access or other substances. And so in an effort to support all first responders in navigating these complex scenarios where someone is maybe not having an emergency but needs help navigating primary care that they would normally call the 911 for and would utilize the emergency room for, we're trying to provide relief on the 911 system as well as support our citizens who are just needing maybe complex medical care that a standard outreach team doesn't have capacity or training for. This does give us access to EMTs, nurses, and community health workers. We utilize community health workers and peers instead of social workers in our program for many reasons, one of which is because we don't respond to violent calls or domestic violence with this team. This is in tandem with the police department and fire department and other medical providers to help with bandwidth because there are a lot of calls that are too complex for just one agency. If you can go to the next slide. We do a variety of trainings, anywhere from crisis intervention training with the police department to community trainings that help us understand certain communities' need for transparency. We are building out our own local training as well as the state level community trainings around community paramedicine and response. You can go to the next slide. Again, this just outlines our partnership with MAHEC. We work with a lot of different agencies, but the ones that we're directly partnered with for substance use care and outreach care are a blend of larger organizations and local grassroots organizations. I can go to the next slide, please. I think the useful thing to mention around this slide is just that in an effort, again, to be transparent and to help the general public and our stakeholders understand kind of the effect that we're able to have on the 911 system and on EMS responder burnout or alternative responses in the community to non-emergent calls. We just purchased new software to be able to have reliable data. Next slide, please. This is just a slide that explains funding. I don't know if it's useful to go into it, but I'm available for any follow-up around this slide. If you can go to the next slide. This just goes over the physician collaborators and current team members that we have. Mostly, again, we have community paramedics, peer support people, and physicians that collaborate with us to define our scope of practice in the field. You can go to the next slide. In our program, when we talk about striving to be part of a larger cultural shift in EMS, I want to acknowledge this comes from all angles. We are in a national crisis. We're in a shortage of first responders and workers across all disciplines. We're short on fire, police, EMS, nursing. And I think it's important to talk about why that is beyond just pay. It's also, there's part of a cultural shift in making it easier for our first responders to help people in ways that are meaningful and try to involve the community when asking for how we can improve those response systems so that it's an authentic collaboration between businesses, community members, patients, hospital systems, and other first responders. And you can go to the last slide. This just briefly goes over future goals for our program. In summation, in summary, though we have a post-overdose response team and MAT team, again, those are dedicated to opioid response. Our newest team, hopefully with the information that we can gain from this pilot and the city's program, we look forward to seeing how these types of programs can help one another, also help to support all first response and address some of the calls that are, again, non-emergent but very, very complex in our city and county. I believe that is all. I guess I will say one more thing, which is that as these kind of programs expand, there's also another component of addressing that same burnout in public safety and first responders, giving those people options for different kinds of work than we've traditionally had in 911 systems. And thank you. I will hand it over to Chief Burnett, and thanks so much.
Kim, you can ask your question.
While we have some of the Buncombe Community Paramedicine team here, thank you for taking the time this morning to meet with us. Do we have any updated data on what percentage of your services or call for service have been answered within the city limits?
I do not have that information on hand, but I would say around 87%. 80 to 90%.
And I noticed that in the last slide, especially at the bottom, it mentions essentially diverting calls for service. What are some of the ways that the services that are provided by community paramedicine interrupt things getting to a bigger crisis mode?
I think the simplest way to describe that is that, again, I want to emphasize we are using a co-responder model. And so we are not aiming to replace a police response in a dangerous scenario. We are trying to acknowledge that often dangerous scenarios start, especially when it involves mental health and substance use, they start somewhere much before that initial call. And so in trying to take a proactive approach, having community responders, paramedics, available out in the community sooner, we may be able to catch some of those calls. And when I say diversion, I mean away from the hospital. I mean preventing additional units being dispatched when they're already running a lot of non-emergent calls throughout the night. So if that makes sense, trying to be more available to the general public before people become agitated or aggressive or upset. When all they have is a general health need.
Thank you. I think that my follow-up question would be for our staff would be if we could get a future analysis of how many of our calls for service over the last 6 months to 2 years have been non-emergent calls would be helpful in identifying what some of the gaps are and how we should move forward.
All right, Chief Burnett, you're up.
Thank you, and thank you, Claire.
So I wanted to give the committee an update on our community responder pilot program that we are building in collaboration with the county. So in September, as y'all remember, we presented information on a community responder program that was being proposed, similar to and intended to complement and support Buncombe County's efforts as was just provided in Claire's presentation. So our pilot program is proposed to have a multidisciplinary team, and that will complement Buncombe County's efforts and other partners to not only respond, but most importantly, be proactive to address our community safety and quality of life issues, as Claire just talked about, before they escalate. So what we're doing right now is we are creating those cross-departmental teams. We're working to gather information and define the details, and we're coordinating with Buncombe County and other key partners, making contact with other cities that have successful programs, and our Community Economic Development Department with Emily Ball. We're waiting on the findings from the needs assessment from the National Alliance to End Homelessness to be delivered in January to help inform and guide us on next steps. So our next steps are to outline the specific issues that we would like to address as a city with our pilot program, such as potentially providing business support, connecting folks to services, et cetera, and to develop a more detailed action plan to implement the pilot program in coordination with Buncombe County and other partners, and also identify appropriate staffing and other resource needs. And we plan on providing another update to the Public Safety Committee in early spring. Assistant Fire Chief Patrick Crudup is going to be our program manager for this pilot, and so he will be providing not only that update, but any other information and updates moving forward. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee?
Thank you, Scott, for providing this update. We have very serious public safety concerns in our community, and local taxpayers are picking up the tab for our daytime and tourist population increases, including sanitation and public safety. My concern is for success and support of these new potential staff members who might be involved in this pilot. The staff members of the city and the county they would be collaborating with, since collaboration is the word that has been used, and I think that's really important. I think it needs to be done carefully and right, not just fast. And I say that acknowledging that we've asked for really tight turnarounds on report backs from staff like yourself. But we do need to make sure that we're able to get this right. So some of the questions I have are around job description, training required, and pay range. What training and skills are required for this new pilot program? And how would the job description and pay differ from Buncombe County Community Paramedicine and or our own police and fire when we have issues with recruiting and retaining staff?
Yeah, excellent questions. And those are exactly the types of things that we will be working through with Buncombe County as we continue to collaborate to identify exactly. But with this pilot program and with this collaboration, we're not at that point yet to even have those items identified. But that certainly is on our agenda to have those answers, and certainly we'll have those when we provide that next update.
Excellent. And the next one is role and vision. So when we're looking at a new program, we definitely need community members and our partners like the county at the table. I think about an example that I've heard often of an employee of a local business when they approach maybe their first opening up the business at work. They meet someone who's having either a mental health issue or an opioid poisoning issue. Both of those would require a mental health professional and an opioid crisis professional. So my concern is that it's really important that we not just reimagine someone's uniform, but that we reimagine public safety, so we don't put both our community members and our staff in a precarious situation. And I know that's certainly not the intention of our staff, but those are the heart of my questions. So I've previously asked for a cost comparison of contracting with the county to expand the paramedicine program. I understand that to date, the county's not yet been asked for a quote. So what would it look like to get a quote for a collaborative, downtown specific 24/7 unit of community paramedicine to be able to expand on what's working and the trust that's being built instead of duplicating? The spirit of that comes from also, we're looking at what it would look like to collaborate with transit, where we're also doing what I think is a much better job of coordinating our 911 through contracting. So what would it look like for us to get a quote to expand community paramedicine in comparison side by side to what this pilot would cost for taxpayers?
I think an important first step would be to determine what those outcomes are. And so that's what this collaboration with the county is. We continue to build this this partnership to find out, what is the best path forward and what is the best scope and responsibilities for all of our responders. As Claire mentioned several times, that co-responder model is so important to have that diversity of responders with skill sets, equipment, training, depth, capacity to be very similar to all of our other public safety models. Probably the best example is our current emergency medical services delivery system. And, that important co-responder model is rather than being contracted out, it's a collaboration to add synergy rather than have a just a sole responder model rather than a co-responder model. So to answer your question, we're not far enough along in identifying with the county what those outcomes and what that scope would look like to even prepare a request for a proposal from the county.
Thank you. I know it may take some time to get into the details of this. Staying at the table with the county and community members and community organizations, I think, is really important. I would ask once again explicitly that we have a side-by-side comparison to the cost of a pilot versus the cost of contracting and expanding community paramedicine with the county.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being with us today. We appreciate your input, and we look forward to your update in the spring. We'll move on to Taylor. How are you?
I am great. Can I just provide just a little quick update?
Yeah, sure.
The response. So one of the things that we face in EMS is a shortage of workforce members right now. What Council member Ron is speaking of as far as having a ability to have a fully community paramedic program built around 24/7. There's really just not the personnel to do that right now to the level of behavioral health response. The model that we're going down the road to create right now in line with the fire department, the police department, the sheriff's department, this co-responding model is really the best because it's really going to take all of us coming together, all hands on deck approach, just like we did during COVID to address these issues, and we can be stronger if we're unified and we're together, moving forward. And I just applaud everybody's effort because this blending of ideas and working together is really what our community needs right now in this crisis to meet the demands that's being placed on all of our public safety because it's a very challenging time. And I just want to tell y'all how much I thank y'all for this effort of us being unified and looking at this whole unilateral. And Kim, your point to moving slow, I really appreciate that because with our workforce shortage, this is going to be a slow, methodical process that we've all got to build together. But I just wanted to kind of point that out because, 3 years ago, that wouldn't have been an issue with workforce, but we kind of find ourselves post-COVID in a different place. And I just wanted to, kind of throw that out there and bring out the importance of a unified front and how that is what's really going to be required to touch all the multidisciplinary areas that's required here. But with that, thank y'all for all this work.
Thank you, Taylor. Much appreciated. I think that's all for our agenda. We'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the speaker queue?
There's no one in the queue.
All right. Any other comments or statements? There being none, this meeting is adjourned.